As I would travel the country and engage in conversation regarding civil rights, I would ask people from all walks of life if they could name the civil rights leaders that they were familiar with. For the most part, the elder generation, those who I would say of the baby boomer generation or older, would make mention of Dr. Martin Luther King. There would also be brief mentioning of Rosa Parks and Malcolm X. When it came to Generation X, the age group that was probably born around 1965 through 1980 still had similar responses. However, when I would speak to millennials, those born around 1981 or so or after, the responses got a little bit more vague, depending upon who I was talking to and to some degree where I was at in the country. Their responses appeared to have little to no knowledge of who our civil rights leaders were. Interesting enough, race was no longer a factor. It appeared that the further I got away from the South, like mentioned in our last video, the less knowledge individuals had of our past civil rights leaders. So let's just take a minute to name a few. Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was an American social reformer and abolitionist. He became the most important leader for civil rights for African Americans during the 19th century. He became widely known for his "What does your 4th of July mean to us?" speech. W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois was a co-founder of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. He was also an advocate for protest and challenging social norms. W.E.B. Du Bois also was the editor of a publication called The Crisis, a crisis put out by the NAACP that was highly relied upon by African Americans. Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells was an investigative journalist, a socialist, an educator, and an early leader of the civil rights movement. She was also one of the co-founders of the NAACP. Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers was the Mississippi State Field Secretary for the NAACP. He was also known for challenging the University of Mississippi for denying him the opportunity to attend law school there, even though the state of Mississippi did not have a law school for African Americans. He was also a very strong advocate for justice in the murder of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy who was lynched by 2 white men for allegedly whistling at a white woman. Dorothy Height. Dorothy Height was the president of the National Council of Negro Women. She was a civil rights activist. She was a women's rights activist. She focused on the issues pertaining to African American women, to include unemployment, literacy, and voter awareness. John Lewis. John Lewis was a civil rights activist and an American politician who served in the House of Representatives for the state of Georgia. He coined the phrase "good trouble" and was a pillar for social justice. John Lewis was also one of the leaders who staged the 1960 Nashville sit-in, the first mass sit-in of its kind. Of course, there are a number of names not mentioned in this video, but I encourage you to do a deeper dive into the commitment of these individuals to see why they were so committed to civil rights.
Before we wrap up today, I want to make sure you don't miss this opportunity. The stories we've covered are just the beginning. At unlockingblackhistory.com, you can dive deeper with our free community, exclusive content, and a workbook designed to help you reflect and grow. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. I'll see you at the next video.